So recently in English class, we've been preparing for a trial on a character from Antigone named Creon. Each member of the class will be playing a different role in the trial. I, for example, volunteered to be a part of the jury. Our assignment as the jury was to research a court case from some time in history. We were given a list of cases to choose from, and so I chose the Sam Shepard case. So first off, I'm going to tell you a little bit about who Sam was, just so you can sort of understand the context of the case. So first off, Sam was born on December 29th in 1923 in Cleveland, Ohio. As he grew up, he decided that he liked learning about medicine and biology. So he decided that he was going to pursue a career in medicine, actually. So he started off studying at Hanover College. And then he decided to move to Western Reserve University. And then a little bit after that, he decided that he was going to move to Los Angeles to complete his education. And then it turns out that actually, while he was in Los Angeles, in 1945, he married his high school sweetheart, named Marilyn. She's actually a huge role in this case. She's actually the one who ends up getting murdered. But however, a few years later, the couple returned to Ohio, where Sam and Marilyn had originally gone to high school and grown up. So I'm just going to jump right into information about the case, just so you guys know what sort of went on in the case. So on July 3rd of 1954, towards like the evening, Sam and Marilyn hosted a dinner for their neighbors, and after they ate dinner, the Shepherds and then their neighbors watched a movie called Strange Holiday on television, and then after a while, Sam sort of got pretty tired, so he decided that he was going to go to bed, and then he ended up falling asleep. And then the neighbors said goodbye to Marilyn around midnight, which is what we've been told. And then, so on July 4th, actually, it was really early in the morning, so it was sort of really close to when the neighbors had left. So sometime between 3 and 4:45, Marilyn was found murdered in her bed. At 5:50, Sam called Spencer Houck, who is the mayor of Bay Village, Ohio, which is where Sam and Marilyn lived. So he told Spencer to, quote, "Get over here quickly, I think they've killed Marilyn." By 6:02, the first police officers arrived at the scene, and they discovered the body, a trail of blood, and evidence of an apparent robbery. Around 8 o'clock a.m., coroner Sam Gerber, or Gerber, however you pronounce it, he arrived at the Shepard's home. He immediately suspected Sam as the murderer, and he actually conducted a crime investigation. But he had a very strong bias in his mind, sort of, because he was very suspicious of Sam. So during this investigation, he found out that Sam was complaining of a really bad headache and like neck injuries because he had said that he was struggling with a bushy-haired intruder, and he was actually taken to the hospital and he was interrogated in the afternoon. So actually the next day on July 5th, the Shepard murderer made the front page of the headlines in all of the Cleveland papers. It was a huge ordeal. Lines of cars kept driving by the Shepard home. They would all just stop and stare and sort of be probably terrified because they thought that there was this crazy guy who had killed his wife in there. And actually on July 7th, so about 3 days after the murder, Sam conducted a funeral for his wife, Marilyn. So a couple days later, on July 9th, Sam agrees to return to his house and reenact his account of the events that happened on the 4th of July. So a ton of editorials complained that the investigation was going way too slowly. They all wanted him to just be convicted and put in prison for murdering his wife. So on July 22nd of 1954, Coroner Gerber opened a 3-day inquest to the Shepard's murder, an inquest is sort of where you just open a big session where you find out a bunch of information about the case and you use that as like evidence, and you find your witnesses and all that stuff in order to conduct a trial later. So a little while later, on July 30th, the Cleveland Press headlined a story called "Why Isn't Sam Shepard in Jail?" So at 10:30 that evening, Sam was actually arrested at the home of his parents. So on October 18th of 1954, the Sam Shepard trial opened in Cleveland before Judge Edward Blithen. So the lawyer who was Sam's defense lawyer was a guy named Spencer Hook. Yeah, I think that's how you pronounce it, Spencer Hook F. Lee Bailey. So there were actually quite a few witnesses. I don't think they actually witnessed the incident, but they were sort of walking around and maybe they heard the ruckus or something like that. So the first witness is Dr. Lester Adelson. Don Ahern, I guess that's how you pronounce it. He was actually one of the neighbors that had come over to their house, or to the Shepard's house, the night when they had the movie. So Don and Nancy were the two who were over at the house, which is why they're witnesses, because they were there the same night as the murder. J. Spencer Hook, who was the first, or who was the mayor, who was also the first person that Sam called when he found out. Esther Hook, who is Spencer's wife. Patrolman Fred Drenken, I think. Drenken? I don't know how you pronounce his last name. And then the chief of police, John P. Eaton, and Lawrence Hook. So there was tons of evidence, but just a few of the pieces of evidence. One was blood stains on Sam's watch, Marilyn's pillow, and on Sam's pants. Also, this is really interesting. A sperm was found in Marilyn, actually. In her dead body, they examined it, and she actually had a sperm in her. But the weird thing is that the sperm was not Sam's, so that means she had either had an affair or she had been raped or something like that. Sam's shirt was also found torn up with no bloodstains, though, a few yards away from the house. There were a bunch of questionable aspects about the trial. So a bunch of evidence was used in the wrong way. So, for example, there was blood on Sam's watch, and the prosecutor said that it had been from when he was killing Marilyn, and the blood had just like splattered all over him. But in reality, we have examined the blood, and we know that it is not from that. However, it is from when Sam was taking his wife's pulse, so the blood had actually been mushed on it rather than splattered on it. There was no evidence of a forced entry, so maybe the door had been unlocked. We don't know. But also the Shepherd's dog did not bark, so that's kind of suspicious. So the end verdict was that Sam was proven innocent, and the public was very much against this verdict. Most people thought that Sam was completely guilty, and they wanted him to be in prison, and then eventually they actually demanded for a retrial, which did end up happening. However, Sam was proven innocent a second time. So for this case, I actually do believe that Sam was innocent. I feel like the verdict was a fairly accurate verdict, because like all of the evidence pointed to his innocence. The prosecutor tried to use the evidence to sort of like pound it on him, like, oh, this blood from the watch, that's obviously because it was there from when you were murdering your wife. It just splattered all over you. But all of the evidence actually pointed to what Sam had said, that it was from him taking the pulse of his wife. So all of the evidence sort of correlated with what Sam said. So we can sort of realize how trustworthy he is because of the evidence correlating with what he had been saying. I also do feel like the U.S. Judicial system works pretty well. It's worked for a really long time since we've been the U.S. I feel like it's been really efficient and effective, and it gives everybody a fair shot. Everybody starts out as innocent, and if you have enough evidence that you are guilty, then you're proven guilty. But everybody starts out innocent, so you can't be proven guilty really if you're not.